What up, what up, what up? You tuned into the Jose Morales podcast where we talk sports, business, and everything in between. I am your host, Jose Morales, and we're at my boxing academy. Joining me in the ring today is Jen Kale.
Hello.
Say what's up, Jen.
What's up?
So, Jen Kale, if you've been at my gym here anytime in the past, 10 years?
Yep.
You probably ran into Jen Kale. She's the tallest girl usually in class. Nah.
I walk tall. That's all that matters.
Nah, I always give her crap. But Jen Kale and I go way back. I think I met you
2006?
Yeah, a long time ago. And when I met her, I was actually in high school when I met you and I was training her. How crazy does that sound?
And I didn't know that.
Yeah. Actually, no one knows that.
Yeah,
so
I didn't know.
If it makes you feel better, no one knew. It was a secret. So, yeah, that's when I met Jen Kale. One thing I love about Jen Kale, there's a lot of things I love about you, but one thing I wanted to tell you, you've always been super supportive and super sweet and genuine to me.
Oh,
so thank you for that, Jen.
Yeah, of course.
And so what we're going to talk about today, before we get into our story of how we became such good friends, is we're going to talk about my experience when I was driving unlicensed. I was an unlicensed driver for a good portion of my life. So I say about 14 to 23, I was driving without a license. And I kind of wanted to talk about this, but I didn't want to talk about it alone. And I thought it would be good to bring somebody that's an officer and that's in the field and kind of get their perspective of each scenario that I was in and kind of get what they would do and if you think the situation was handled correctly. And at the end of the day, what we want to do with this is we want to kind of educate everyone to let them know kind of how I dealt with it and how an officer dealt with it and kind of get you in an idea of how you should kind of deal with
a mindset.
Yeah, a mindset you go into when you have a police officer in your face in an uncomfortable situation. Because I've had, those that do not know, I've had a lot of incidents where I had asshole police officers and then I had really nice police officers. And I kind of wanted to share all those stories. And I think Jen Kale is a perfect person for it. Jen Kale and I actually went on a ride-along once, too.
Yep.
And she took me on a ride-along. This was probably back in the day, too. I think
back in the
08,
day.
09.
Yeah.
And
I was working nights.
Yeah.
Patrol.
It was a funny time. I think this was the first time I was on a ride-along. Mm-hmm. And Jen, I didn't realize all the domestic stuff. We went to people's houses because they were arguing. It was new to me. I'm like, damn, you guys do this?
Yeah.
I'm like, we're the guns and high-speed chases. No. But we did go into that apartment when all those people were in a fight.
Yeah, it was a fight. Yep.
And it was a lot of Hispanics.
I made you come with me.
And they were mad at me. I was translating, and one of the guys was like, yo, why are you with them? It was hilarious. But we're kind of going to get out on subject as far as what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to share a scenario that I was in, and then she's going to tell me what she would have done or the police officer handled it correctly, if she agrees with what they did. And then I'm going to kind of share how I felt at the time. Mm-hmm. The very first one that I'm going to talk about is I had just picked up my nephew he's a nephew that's older than me because his mom is a lot older than me. So the age, it sounds crazy. It sounds like my little kid nephew. This is a 19-year-old nephew at the time. Okay. And I had just picked him up. We're driving home. And we get pulled over, and when we get pulled over, it was at gunpoint. Guns drawn, cops come out, and they take us out of the car. And first thing, they start searching us like crazy, search the car. And after everything, they just let me go, but they gave me a ticket for driving without a license because that's pretty much all they found. One thing, they didn't take my car. Usually they would take my car impounded. They did not do that. They just gave me the license, drive without a license, ticket, fine, whatever, and let me go. I, at the time, felt it was very, discriminating. That's just how I felt. I felt like they were trying to find something or they were trying to fuck with me, in other words. How do you think that what could have caused that? How do you see that as an officer?
So just on those circumstances, as you give them to me, I think that there's more information that you probably didn't know or maybe wasn't explained to you, because when officers pull their guns out, there's certain rules that we have to abide by, and there's certain kind of requirements that have to meet that criteria for us to do that. So we don't just, roll out at night, pull our guns out on on a whim,
exactly.
Right? A felony has to have occurred. There's reasons why, like if we're going to do what you described, I would refer to as a felony stop, and that has very certain amount of restrictions that are applied to that. So if they're searching you in your car, and you might meet the description of somebody who just committed a felony, and they're looking for that person, which is probably why they made the decision not to tow your car, or said, okay, thanks, we're going to send you on your way, but here's your ticket so we know who we stopped.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see that.
So depending on not knowing all of the facts that kind of lead up to that maybe weren't expressed to you at that time, it just makes me ask more questions about
I can agree with that now.
Yeah. I'm sure going through that experience, and then people not relating to you all the details, because I know sometimes when we're in those stops and things are happening, we're looking for guns, weapons, something that's a suspect would have taken with them.
Yeah. One thing I always took offense to, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. It's all right, Jose.
I hate, and you're going to hear this often in all the scenarios, but for the most part, I always got my car searched all the time. Like, it was never like just, okay, you don't have a license, here's your ticket, go home. It was always like, okay, get out the car. I'm going to search you. I'm going to search your car. I'm going to search your trunk. I always found that very offensive for some reason. I always found like they were in a way judging me as if I for sure know you have something. You know what I mean? Well, but at the time, like how you said, a felony stop, obviously.
There's more to it that maybe you were not aware of at the time.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Or someone didn't tell you.
Yeah, and that's how I felt at that time. I was kind of like, damn, I'm literally just going home, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know this. They could be probably looking for something.
Yeah, or maybe somebody that was rolling with you was on probation.
Yeah.
And so they were looking for something. I mean, there's, different scenarios or reasons why, like not knowing who pulled you over or at that time, and
exactly, yeah.
But it does, I know that if we're pulling people over and doing searches, that there's more to it than
than
restrictions and
Yep. Another time, this is actually a good cop. I was running late for work, and I was driving on the carpool lane when you merge onto the freeway, the little off
side lane.
Yeah. And I actually got on the carpool lane because I didn't want to wait for the the light to turn green to merge on the freeway.
So you were impatient.
Yes. And I agree with this. I shouldn't have been doing that.
Yeah.
I got pulled over, and when I got pulled over, the cop he was actually a CHP officer. He pulled me over, and he just asked where I was going, why I was such in a hurry, and I told him I'm late for work, blah, blah, blah. And he was actually very polite. This one, he was very, 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 he was like, look, man, I don't agree, because I'm a dreamer, and I just couldn't get a license. A lot of people didn't understand why I was driving without a license. I didn't just choose not to take my driver's license. I couldn't get it.
Right.
And he understood that. He was like, I don't really believe with the whole thing that's going on with that. He's like, just drive safe, go to work, and he didn't give me nothing. But the fact, the way he reacted to it and the way he talked to me about it made me really like look at police officers and everything different. Like, I'm like, you know what? They're not all assholes. You know what I mean?
True.
And then I was like, you can't really judge everybody by one person. You know what I mean?
True.
And that kind of helped me with that one. That made me feel good. Because I've had that, honestly, I think I had a few of those. Now, it wasn't just one.
Right.
But the reason why that one stands out so much is the fact that he told me he didn't agree with me not.
Communication.
Yeah, communication. Communication is key.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that scenario? Do you think he did the right thing? Would you?
Yeah, I mean, I think officers have discretion, and I think it's a good example of that. And, I know a lot of the folks that I work with feel the same way, that we want to do a good job. We want to help people, and we want people leaving, a situation where they feel like, hey, you know what? That wasn't so scary, or that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Not every situation has to be with an asshole cop.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Obviously the time that I was driving from 14 to about 23, I probably shouldn't have been 14, 15, 16. I didn't drive. Like, I didn't have my own car already. Like, I only drove when I had to go to work or something like that. And someone couldn't take me or something like that. One incident, I actually took my mother's car to work. And this was in Folsom. And I had to make it back in time so my mom can take the car to go back to work, so she can go to work, because we were sharing this car, right? So I'm driving down 50, and I completely guilty. I would admit it now. I was driving really, really fast. I was not being a safe driver, and I'm driving really fast down 50. I exit the freeway, and once I exit, I see a CHP officer on a motorcycle pull behind me, pulls me over. And when he pulls me over, first thing he says is like, "Do you know how fast you're going?" I'm like, "Oh shit, obviously I'm about to get a speeding ticket." But I could tell as soon as he found out, because when you're at this time, I couldn't get no ID either. So my ID was a Mexico consulate ID. I don't know if you ever seen one of those. Yeah, that was my ID.
Okay.
So as soon as I gave him my ID, and he saw that it was that, I kind of felt his energy and his demeanor, everything just changed. And what I mean by that is, first when he pulled me over, he was kind of like, "Do you know how fast you were going?" I was like, "Yeah, I know, I was speeding, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "All right, give me your license registration." When I gave him the registration and then the ID, as soon as he saw the ID, his demeanor changed. He went from a nice, "How fast you were going?" Because he wasn't mean when he said that. He was just kind of, "Do you know how fast you were going?" As soon as he saw that, it went from nice to "Get out the car." I get out the car. He puts me in handcuffs. And then when he has me in handcuffs, he's just going off on me. He says, "Oh, it's because people like you are driving on my roads, in my country." Like, he's just going off and off. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this is the first time that I literally had to like stop myself from really wanting to hit this guy or do something. Like, I was in so much anger and so much
insult.
Everything. Yeah, like, it was everything. It was a mix of emotions of everything. One, it's just all these things he's saying about me now that, I was driving fast, but this doesn't go into starting insulting my race. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I kind of just really, I was pissed off. And
how old were you at that time?
At that time, I think I was 16.
Oh, okay.
16, 17. I was underage. Younger. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he pulled me over, and he went off, and then he impounded my mom's car, and then he just left me there, right? And he's gonna find a way, whatever the hell. And I remember walking down. It was walking down Sunrise, and to Denny's, and that's when I called somebody to come pick me up. But throughout the whole walk, I was just crying. I was pissed. I had all these mixed emotions, and then what really made me tear up more is the fact that they took the car that my mom had to go to work for. You know what I mean? It was just like,
right.
And then everything. So I was just pissed. Long story short, how do you think he handled that? How would you handle it? Do you agree with the situation? Tell me what you think.
Well, I do remember you telling me that story back years ago.
Yeah.
And, I felt bad for you because, that type of experience really shouldn't happen, regardless of, how the officer's personal feelings play into whatever their beliefs are. I would never, and I like to think that I've made it through my career without ever making anybody feel that way.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people I work with feel the same way. Because there's a way to be professional and still do the job. And when you start to mix in your personal feelings or beliefs to belittle someone, regardless of the situation, it's just not professional.
Yeah.
And I think it's everyone has to take accountability for actions as we learn, right? So like, as I think just in general, police work is evolving, and training is changing to kind of attack these type of moments so that people aren't experiencing that or should be leaving feeling that, right? Because the job is still done professionally, but without awareness or knowing that this has happened, like, that's the only time that we can change things.
Yeah.
Right. So I like to think that I'm a part of the change, because when I deal with people, like, it's with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
Maybe a little humor on the side, but I always want someone to think, a positive experience and, lessons learned.
Yep.
So.
Very true.
Yeah.
Because you kind of relate that to the previous incident that I talked about, where I was driving in a carpool lane and the guy was really nice and polite and communicated. It made me look at it very differently versus the next incident.
Right.
I was wrong both times, but I felt way different both times just because of how the police communicated. Exactly. Even if the cop, the CHP, the first one, when I was in this carpool lane, even if he would have impounded my car and everything, but the way he communicated to me was way different than the previous guy. You know what I'm saying? It was just the communication of it which is key, like how you said.
And, there's different personalities, right? Like, there's different personalities in every field that you come across, whether it's the doctor's office or the dentist or the grocery store. There's different personalities everywhere. Yep. And learning to manage those and how to communicate with them, and then teach them how to communicate with other people so that we can minimize the negative experiences.
Yep, very true. Next one is, one time I was getting off work. I worked at Olive Garden, so I'm in my tie and all that. And I'm pulling up to my house. I get out the car. I'm starting to walk up to my house now. And as I'm in my walkway pulling up to I'm not in my house yet. It was a sheriff, actually. Sheriff pulls up. Same thing, freeze, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. He's all drop everything. I just stay there. He grabs the keys to my car, searches everything in my car. And once he couldn't find nothing, he asked for my driver's license. And I was like, what? I wasn't even in my car. I was walking. He was like, well, you're driving without a license. He gave me a ticket for that. And he said he saw me from a while back. This was his version. He saw me for miles. He followed me to my house. And he said I hadn't had my headlights on. And that's what made him want me to pull me over. And he didn't get to me in time until I was walking to my house. That was his version. At the time, I felt kind of like, yo, I'm literally walking to my house. You come up to me and you're trying to find something, searching my car, searching everything. And then once you couldn't find nothing, now you're kind of like, okay, well, here's your ticket for no license. I kind of felt insulted again, like kind of like I'm not even driving. You weren't even behind me, nothing. And you just try to look for one thing to get me for it, and at the end of the day, this is all you can find. You know what I mean? How do you see that scenario compared to that? Do you think go ahead, I'll let you answer.
Well, I mean, it makes me think, like, how many times, there have been plenty of times where I have, if I've seen somebody without headlights, then I'll follow them, because a lot of people who drive under the influence forget to turn the lights on. Yeah, so, I would make an investigative stop to determine more information. And by contacting you before you get to the door, that could have been the situation in that case, where maybe he suspected you were DUI or looking for something else.
Yeah, makes sense.
That could have been intoxicated, but not knowing who the officer was leaves me with more questions, because I would be curious. But I can see where, the situation as you explain it, how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Like there was, it's only one-sided.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it leaves you asking more questions than that person was able to explain to you.
Yeah, I think what drove me more nuts, the fact anytime I tried to ask, or like if I went to court or something, it was automatically like, you're at fault, leave it alone, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But I always had that sour taste in my mouth towards that, because of all the bad incidents that I had.
Sure.
I agree with you, though. The very first time I went on a ride-along with a CHP officer, this was in the Bay Area in San Jose, and I went on a ride-along, and we actually pulled over two people, and both did not. I mean, we pulled over a lot of people, but two incidents where we came across people that were didn't have a license, and they had the same ID that I had. And I remember being on the other side and seeing that it was very like, it was hard. Like emotionally, I was kind of like, damn, I want to help the guy, but damn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one guy, the first person they pulled over, he had I think he was speeding or something, but we left him there. We was like, hey, make sure someone just comes, picks you up, and you can't leave unless someone else is driving the car. And I remember, like, we went back and checked on him, like, 30 minutes later, 40 minutes, and he was still there waiting for his ride. So we're like, okay, it makes sense. He actually listened to us. And then the second person, this guy had one light out, and the officer was like, that's a sign of something, like maybe intoxicated and something like that, maybe driving under the influence. And when we pulled him over, he showed his ID and he had an open beer in his center console. And we're like, damn. I was like, this guy, come on, man. Like, seriously. And yeah, he actually was under the influence. He got arrested and everything. But I looked at everything way different that day, because I was like, it really comes down to the way you communicate. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How you are at that point, whatever it is that you're doing. And it comes with everything, not just driving.
Right.
It comes with life,
mm-hmm.
with your relationship, with
right.
your making a sale, with your anything. You have to communicate, and has to come out in the right way and get people to understand your side. You know what I'm saying? Like, look what I'm dealing with. Like, you're trying to tell me you're not driving under the influence, but you got an open container in the center console. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, understand where I'm coming from. So that's probably the biggest thing where I hope people get from this podcast and hearing this, is that they can kind of, I now can talk about this very calmly and in yes. peace. But at the time, I was furious. But sure. I was furious because I never put myself in their shoes.
Right.
You know what I mean? I never took the time to understand where they're coming from. And that's one thing I would tell people is, you know, try to see both stories, both sides of the story, not just yours. When I actually got my driver's license when I was 23 years old, I'm going to share this story.
Yeah. All right.
Is that okay? Yeah. You're laughing already, huh?
I know where this is going. Go ahead.
So when I got my driver's license, I was so pumped up. I finally had a California driver's license. I'm driving down, I think it was Sunrise.
Yeah.
And there was a
checkpoint.
There was a checkpoint. And who did I see at this checkpoint? Fucking Jen Kale is at this checkpoint. And I don't think you knew that I had a driver's license, huh?
No.
Did you? No, I don't think I think she didn't know that I had finally got my paperwork. And I'm driving through, and she comes up, says hi. This is actually the first time I think you met my wife.
Yeah, it was.
Huh? Yep. That was the first time you met her?
First time.
Yep. And I'm driving. I'm like pumped up. I remember walking up, and I'm telling Oli, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm finally getting to show somebody my driver's license. Because no joke, when I got my driver's license, I didn't get pulled over no more. It was like they knew that I had a driver's license.
No offense, Jose. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? Because I was pumped up to finally be like, look,
I got a license.
I got one.
Yeah.
But Jen Kyo comes up to me. She was like, all right, look, just keep going. Don't worry about it. She was kind of like hooking it up so I don't get my car impounded.
Well, we do random wave throughs, right? And so you drove through at that time where I was like, okay, we're just waving people through. So I'm like,
oh, I didn't know you guys did that. You guys do random ones?
Yeah, because the way the checkpoints work, it's educational, right? So you stop cars, and you're like asking for driver's license, insurance, if they've had anything to drink, and then other times you're like waving people through. And so it's kind of whoever's at the head of the checkpoint will go, okay, we're gonna wave people through. So then you count, come through. So as you guys come through, I'm like, oh, Jose, you don't even have to sweat this. You just drive right through.
Yeah. I was like, man, she doesn't know, though.
I can see you holding it, though, like ready to show me. And I'm like, I don't even need it right now.
Oh, that was awesome.
It was pretty funny.
I thought it was cool, though.
And I wanted you to not worry about it. Like, I knew that was a point of contention for you. So
yeah, it was amazing, though. And I was like, Jen Kyo's so tight. I love Jen Kyo. Another thing about Jen Kyo, so during this time when I was 16, 17, teaching her boxing, myself, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell her to take me down, and I'm going to act like I'm running away. I'm going to see if I can run away from a cop.
No, he started out with a little, it was in that you weren't exactly fond of police officers. You had a little bit of attitude that tied with this. So it was, and I could feel it. I could sense it, and I got it from the stories that you had shared that you weren't exactly sure about Jen Kell being here. So,
no, don't say that. It was. I've always loved you, Jankel. You've always been amazing.
But I had just come back from instructor school, and so I teach other officers self-defense, and Jose was challenging me.
This is after training.
After class. Yeah. So after class, and class was still here. So
yeah, it wasn't. Yeah,
Jose
and
was
we
talking,
actually got in the ring here. Where we're at right now.
He challenged me to the ring, so I was like, "Okay, Jose,
so
let's do this."
This is what I told her though. Hold on, she's trying to take too much credit. Hold on. I told her.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's get in the ring. I'm gonna act like you're arresting me, and then when you're like handcuffing me, I'm gonna try to run away from you. I'm gonna try to get away from it. Act like I'm gonna see if I can break loose.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm gonna see. I'm wondering if it's really that hard to get away from a cop. I'm gonna test myself right now.
So it was actually this corner right over here.
Is that where it was?
Yeah. And he's like, "All right, I'm ready. Take me down." And I'm like, "Okay."
And she took me down.
I grabbed her wrist and I dropped him within seconds. And he pops back up and he's like, I wasn't ready. And I was like, "Okay, Jose, let's get ready again." So then he does it again. And I take him down on the other side. And he drops down, and he's like, "I'm never messing with Jankel."
Yeah,
that's it.
And it worked. Don't leave your police officers alone, all right? Leave them alone.
I think 3 people from that class eventually also got into law enforcement. I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, you're right.
There was other people that I think were inspired. There was this girl
named Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie was there, and bald guy, construction dude. I can't remember his name, but he ended up getting into law enforcement.
Oh, really?
Too. Yeah.
So check you out. Hey. You inspired them, and
anybody can do it.
It's because you put me in handcuffs. That's why.
Yeah, that was funny.
It was.
It was a good moment.
So that's probably, amazing. I mean, Jankel made so many moves to get here and actually do this, and I'm thankful for you for making it happen. I hope you guys get something out of this podcast. The biggest one is make sure you communicate. Put yourself in both sides of the stories. Don't just look at it from your side. And I'm going to ask you, I try to do this with all my guests, but I want to do some off-the-wall questions that have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay.
And just think of the first thing that comes in your mind and answer it.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Don't think about it too much.
Okay.
Favorite restaurant in Sac?
Favorite restaurant in Sacramento is the Melting Pot.
Melting Pot?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah.
All right. Tell me something about Jankel no one knows. Just you. Something unique that not many people know about Jankel.
Identical twin.
I know that. Come on,
but
Jankel.
Most people don't know that.
You're right. A lot of people don't know that. I know that though. If you have someone that is listening right now that wants to have a career in law enforcement, what would you tell them? What would be your tip to them to have a successful career in law enforcement? Because you've been in law enforcement for how many years now?
About 15, 16 years.
15, 16 years. Okay, so that's a pretty successful career, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I would say research it, because there are different types of agencies, and I like to say that each agency has a different personality, and you have to know what the best fit for your personality is going to be. So back when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I was a crime scene technician, which is a civilian position. And as much as I loved doing that, I wanted to be able to talk to people. And the more research I did, the more I learned I'm going to have to go through the police academy. And the only way for me to be a detective is to be a police officer. So I was like, man, how am I going to make that happen? Like I didn't grow up wanting to be a police officer. I was an art major in school, and it never crossed my mind. But circumstances back then it just kind of led and opened that door. And then once I was in the civilian world, I could see the behind the scenes and realize that there are good people out there. Yeah. And I wanted to be part of the good change, and wanted to make it happen. Of course, along the way, there's a little resistance, because this was like 20 years ago or 16 years ago.
Yeah.
But it also made me realize that this was something that I was meant to do. Yeah. So with challenges comes lessons learned, and you have to stick with it and continue on the path. You can't just give up when things get hard. So research it, find the right personality of the departments that work for you, because there's like CHP, and then there's local police, and then there's deputies, and everybody has different personalities. So research it, make sure that you can do the physical aspects of things, it requires training. Not everything is strength. A lot of it's skill and technique, which is why someone that's my size can, not just do it, but go on teaching to maybe help inspire others that never thought about it either, So, and don't give up. You got to just keep going, That
was an amazing tip.
Don't give up.
I like that. Last question. You've been consistently boxing for over a decade. What about it do you love so much? Why do you continue boxing? What do you like about the gym? Talk to me.
I love it. It's the best stress relief for me. I'm always learning, not just about boxing, but about myself. Every time I come, the classes are always different. Mm-hmm. I always say I have to come to, so you can yell at me and tell me what to do so I can mentally check out. And just each time I'm pushing myself into new levels, right? So even after, 10 years, it's footwork and movement. And then, I love the mitt work. It's my favorite thing that we do.
That's a popular one.
Yeah. It brings everything together, right? Because if you're too stationary, it's too clinical, then you're not really getting the full, in the ring, having to move. Yeah. And I'm always learning. So I love to learn, and you do a great job taking, every skill set, every level, and pushing everybody. Yeah. And there's great people here. It's like family. Yeah. So
cool.
Makes it easy.
Thank you so much, Shankel. Thank you so much for being on it.
Thank you, Jose.
Anything you want to add on to? Anything you want to say? No? Anything?
No, I think communication, be respectful, dignity,
be a good person.
Just be a good person.
And you won't have to deal with this.
Yeah. Exactly. Keep the crazy out.
Yep. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Send me a message. Yeah, I can talk. Send me a message. Tell me what you think about the episode.
Thank you for sharing your stories, Jose.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for listening. We out.